take a very quick look for a few minutes at the Parsha. This week's Parsha, we have the Yom Tovim, Parshas Emor. And in the Parshas of the Moadim, in Paragraph Gimel, Pasuk Tes, right, God spoke to Moshe, and Moshe explained to us the mitzvah of the Omer. The mitzvah of the Omer begins on the 16th day of Nisan. For those of us who are the miracles, we miracles live here in Eretz Yisrael. We walk around the streets, we are miracles. For us, we count Sfira the night after the Seder, the first night Chol Hamoed, the 16th of Nisan. For the people in Chutz La'aretz, we're waiting for them to come here so they can become miracles too. The people in Chutz La'aretz, they start counting Sfira the second night of Pesach, the night of the second Seder. It's the 16th of Nisan either way. There's a mitzvah to start counting Sfira. And that's in this week's Parsha, Pasuk Tes Vav, Usvatem lochem imachos HaShabbos. And you should count Sfira the day after Shabbos. Now, we don't count Sfira the day after Shabbos. We count the Sfira the day after Pesach. Pesach is the Leil HaSeder, 15th of Nisan. The next evening, the day after Pesach, it should say, Usvatem lochem imachos HaPesach. Start counting Sfira the day after Pesach. It doesn't say start counting Sfira after the day after Shabbos, Saturday night. And this led to one of the arguments between the Tzdukim and Shushim. Shmuel, are you there? I don't know exactly how to mute. I think someone...
Father Rav, it's been sorted.
Okay. So, thank you. Start counting Sfira the day after Shabbos, which means every year you count Sfira Saturday night. In fact, it's Stukim, the Sadducees, and the second base HaMikdash. That's how they interpreted the Pasuk, because they had no Torah Shebaal Peh. They didn't believe in the Torah Shebaal Peh, what we call Gemara. They didn't believe it. They just read the Pasuk, and they said, this is what we're going to do. And the Tzedukim by Tusam are discussed in the first parak of Pirkei Avos, Antignos Ish Socho, and we have the story there about how Tzedukim and Baitusam came about. But they didn't believe in Torah Shebaal Peh. So, for example, the Torah says, by tefillin, it says the tefillin on your head should be l'totofos bein einechem. The totofa should be between your eyes. That's what the pasuk says. And the Tzedukim put on their tefillin right here, right between their eyebrows, because the pasuk says the totofos bein einechem. It should be between your eyes. So where do you get this from that you put it at the top of your forehead, where your hairline, at your hairline? Where do you get this from? Of course, we get it from the Gemara, because the Gemara goes all the way back, and it's what the Rabbanu Shalom taught Moshe. The Rabbanu Shalom said, write this, and here's the explanation. They don't want to hear the explanation, they just want to do what it says in the Torah. How did they do the mitzvah of tzitzis? The Torah says, you should see your tzitzis. That's a pasuk in the Parshat of tzitzis. So they didn't wear tzitzis. They hung them up all over their house. So wherever they walked, they saw the tzitzis. Where do you get this thing from? So they used to make a beged, hang it up with tzitzis, and they would see it the whole day. And they did all these kinds of things. They literally read the psukim with no explanation to them. And here too, they read the pasuk and they said, you know what? It says he counts you from the day after Shabbos. So however they interpret it, they said that it's the Shabbos after Pesach. Meaning, if the Seder was tonight, you wouldn't start counting Sfira tomorrow night. You'd start counting Sfira Motzoi Shabbos. If the Seder was Monday night, you wouldn't start counting Sfira Tuesday night as we do. You'd start counting Sfira the following Motzoi Shabbos. If the Seder was Wednesday night, we start counting Sfira Thursday night. Tzdukim say, no, you count Sfira Motzoi Shabbos. The result of that is, if you follow the Tzdukim Chas v'Sholom, that Shavuos will always be a Saturday night Sunday. If you always start counting Sfira on Saturday night, so Saturday night is the first night of Sfira. The second Saturday night will be 8. The third Saturday night will be 15. The fourth Saturday night will be 22, etc. 1, 8, 15, 22, 29, 36, 43, 50. If you always begin Sfira on Saturday night, the 50th night will always be Saturday night. And Shavuos will always be Saturday night, Sunday. And the Tzdukim were asked, it's a Gemara in Menachos Samachay. The Gemara says that they were asked, where do you get this from? Why would we have every Yontif, a Yontif, Pesach, Sukkot can be a Monday? We're not going into now the rules of the established calendar, but when Kiddush HaChodesh occurred through the Kiddush, the real Kiddush Levana, Yontif could be a Monday, could be a Tuesday, could be a Wednesday. Where do you get this from that Shavuos has to be a Saturday night, Sunday? So they said like this, Moshe Rabbeinu Oev Yisrael Hoya. Moshe Rabbeinu loved Jewish people. So far, so good. Moshe Rabbeinu loved Jewish people. The first part of the sentence is very good. Moshe Rabbeinu loved Jewish people. But he felt bad for the Jewish people because you have Sholish Regalim. You have 3 major holidays a year. Pesach, nice long holiday, 7 days off. Sukkot, 8 days off, 7 plus Shmini Atzeres, wonderful. Shavuos is 1 day. What kind of holiday is that? But by the time you unpack, you have to pack up and leave already. What kind of 1 day at a hotel, motel, what kind of vacation is this 1 day? Especially, you're going to learn the whole night. We know what Shavuos here is in Eretz Yisrael. The challenge it is to celebrate Shavuos in Eretz Yisrael. You stay up the whole night and learn, you sleep in the morning, you finally wake up to eat a Suda, you're half tired, and by the time you finish the Suda, you have to daven mincha, and then it's Ma'ariv, and the Shavuos is over. We understand the challenge to make Shavuos into a Yontif when it's 1 day. So the Tzdukim said, listen, Moshe Rabbeinu loved Jewish people, and he gave us Sukkot of 8 days, Sukkot Shmini Atzeres, he gave us Pesach of 7 days, but Shavuos, what is a 1 day vacation? So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu established that Shavuos should always be on a Saturday night. So you'll have a 2-day vacation. Shabbos will always go into Shavuos. At least it's 2 days, quote unquote, what we now call the long weekend. Moshe Rabbeinu started the long weekend. So therefore, Sevira should always start Saturday night. He'll always end Saturday night, which will be Shavuos, and you'll have Shavuos, going into Shavuos. And that's basically the shtos, the joke. It's a comedy. This is what Moshe Rabbeinu thought of. He loved the Jewish people, so he's going to make them a longer vacation. But that's how the Tzdukim explain why they believe the pasuk says B'mochos HaShabbos means the day after Shabbos. We know the Gemara explains Mochos HaShabbos here means the day after Pesach. Okay? So if Pesach is Tuesday night, we count starting Sfira. If the Seder is Tuesday night, we say there's Wednesday night, we start counting Sfira Thursday night. And that's the mitzvah of Sfiras HaOmer. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, yes, Rabbi, we hear you. Yes.
You can?
Yep.
Okay. So that's the mitzvah of Sfiras HaOmer. The mitzvah of Sfiras HaOmer is connected to the Omer. The Omer was a mincha. It was a flour offering brought in the Beis HaMikdash on the 16th of Nisan. This was a special flour offering that was brought in the Beis HaMikdash. It wasn't a private offering. It was an offering for all of Klal Yisrael, like there were korbanos brought every day for all of Klal Yisrael. There was a mincha. Not everybody brought this. It was one mincha for all of Klal Yisrael. It was brought on the 16th of Nisan. It's called the Omer, and it had to be brought from barley, the first cutting of barley. Remember that whole thing in Chutz La'aretz about Chodosh, Yoshon, is the cake made from new grain, and therefore you don't want to eat it, or is it Yoshon, did it pass through the year? That whole concept of Chodosh and Yoshon comes from the Omer. So the first cutting of the barley was brought to the Beis HaMikdash, not wheat. Wheat was brought, a wheat offering, the Shtei HaLechem was brought on Shavuos. The Omer, on the 16th of Nisan, the day after the Seder, was from barley. And there's a reason for that. So we start counting, that's why it's called Sfiras HaOmer, the counting of the Omer. We're counting from that flour offering, which is called the Minchas HaOmer. And the reason why it's called the Minchas HaOmer is not what we're going to discuss now. we count from the Omer offering. And that's why it's called Sfiras HaOmer. There's a question in the poskim whether counting Sfira today is a biblical commandment or rabbinic commandment. Those who consider it a biblical commandment say there are two different things in this week's Parshat. One is to bring the flour offering of barley on the 16th of Nisan, and one is to count from that barley offering. So therefore, even though unfortunately we don't have the Beis HaMikdash, although we're building it every morning at 10 o'clock, we're helping build the Beis HaMikdash, but right now we don't have that full structure yet. It's just Hashem, we're going to have it very soon. But even though we don't have the structure to bring the flour offering in, okay, but you can still count. The word Sfiras HaOmer, count to the Omer, doesn't mean you have to have the flour offering to count. They're two different things. Unfortunately, we don't have the Omer offering right now, but you can still count to the Omer offering, and therefore counting to the Omer offering, Sfiras HaOmer is a biblical mitzvah even today. There are other mafarshim that say, other poskim that say that counting Sfiras HaOmer today is a rabbinic mitzvah. It's not a biblical mitzvah. It's not a doraisa. Why? Because it's Sfiras HaOmer, counting to the flour off, counting to the barley offering. If there's no Beis HaMikdash, there's no barley offering, there's nothing to count to. Therefore, to the extent that we do count, it's of rabbinic nature, not a doraisa. And this has all kinds of halachic ramifications. If you can't remember if you counted Sfira, if you can't remember if you counted Sfira, did you miss a biblical mitzvah? I can't remember if I counted Sfira. Is that a suffix? Is it a question in my mind about a doraisa or a drabana? So, for example, if someone can't remember if he ate matzah at the Seder, which is a hard example, I don't even know why I thought of that. That's a hard example to give. Everybody remembers if they ate matzah. But let's say a person can't remember if he ate matzah on the 15th of the night of the Seder. It's a biblical commandment. If you can't remember you did a biblical commandment, you have to do it again. But a person can't remember if he ate maror. Did I eat maror? Again, it's a bad example because everybody remembers if they ate maror. A person can remember if he ate maror. We hold that maror bisman hazeh is a drabanan. Maror today is a rabbinic mitzvah. And under the rules, if you can't remember if you did a rabbinic mitzvah, you could be makel. You don't have to go do it again. Again, that's just superficial examples. So the question is, I don't remember if I counted Sfira last night. If it's a biblical mitzvah, I have to say it. If it's a rabbinic mitzvah, I don't have to say it. But either way, we always say it for different reasons. But this is a machlokes where the counting the Omer is dependent upon the offering in the Beis HaMikdash. And if there's no Beis HaMikdash, no offering, there's no need to count except for rabbinic reasons. Or the counting is separate and apart from the flour offering. And even today, it's of a doraisa of biblical nature. We learned when we had the Nefilas Haman L'chaim on the 16th of Nisan, the first day Chol Hamoed, we had a group of us learning over Zoom, and we learned the Gemara in Megillah about Haman who was hanged on the 16th of Nisan. The Purim events that we read about and that we celebrate in Adar of the war between the Jews and the Goyim. But the Gezeira to wipe out Jews, Chas v'Shalom, occurred in Nisan, occurred over Pesach. We learned about that on Chol Hamoed. And Haman was actually hanged on the 16th of Nisan, the day the Omer was brought. And the Gemara, we learned details that Haman came to Mordechai's Beis Medrash after he was commanded by Achashverosh to go put Mordechai on my horse and march him through the streets. That occurred on the 16th of Nisan. And later in the afternoon, Haman was hanged at the party. But he came to the Beis Medrash and he asked Mordechai, what were you just learning with your students? And he said to him, I was learning about bringing a flour offering in the Beis HaMikdash, how you do it. And Haman responded, you know what? The little flour that you were talking about, bringing in the Beis HaMikdash, has defeated me. Because I now need to put you on a horse and march you through the streets, and to my embarrassment, I have to ride you on the king's horse and say, so therefore, this little flower that you were talking about is completely defeated me. It's more powerful than me. Why, Rashi says in Megillah, why was Mordechai teaching about flower offerings? Because it was the 16th day of Nisan. And what do you do on the 16th day of Nisan when the Beis HaMikdash stood? You bring the flour offering, flour made from barley. So on the 16th day of Nisan, he's teaching how to bring a flour offering. And that's the day that Haman was hanged. And Haman says, you know, this flour offering, the Omer, is even more powerful than me. It destroyed me. So I want to take a look for the few minutes that we have left about what this Omer is. What is the power in the Omer? The first place that the Omer is actually discussed, the Minchas Omer, is all the way back in Parshas Vayikra several weeks ago. And that's in Vayikra Gimel, Pasuk Yudalid. The Pasuk says, Ve'im takriv minchas bikurim la'Hashem, and if you will bring the minchas bikurim, and Rashi on that Pasuk says, minchas bikurim, the minchas ha'omer kosev medaber. Let's talk about this minchas ha'omer, this barley offering that has to be done on the 16th of Nisan. Now we have a problem. We just learned in Parshas Emor, and we know that on the 16th of Nisan, it is a biblical requirement to bring the barley flour offering in the Beis HaMikdash. It's not something you want to do, you can decide if you have to do it. You don't get a right to say, you know, the Torah doesn't say to us, and if you want to eat matzah on the night of Pesach, the Torah says, but Erev tochlu matzahs. On that night, you shall eat matzah. The Torah, when it wants to tell you to put on tefillin, it says, Pshatim los al yatecha. You put it on. When the Torah wants you to put up a mezuzah, it says, it doesn't say, V'im, and if you want to put up the mezuzah, it says, and you put it up. That's how a commandment's told to us. One of the 613 mitzvahs, one of the 248 positive commandments is on the 16th day of Nisan, a barley flour offering shall be brought in the Beis HaMikdash, and it's called the Minchas HaOmer. And we just learned about in Parshas Emor. The Torah says, you do this. And here in Parshas Vayikra, when the Torah is generally talking about all kinds of flour offerings, how to do it, what pot do you need, and all the rules of a mincha, of a flour offering, there are multiple types of flour offerings. The Torah says, and if you will bring a flour offering, and if you will bring the Omer, again, Perek Gimel, Pasuk Yudal, Ve'im takriv minchas bikurim, and if you will bring the minchas bikurim, if you so decide. And Rashi, in commenting on this, on that pasuk, says, "V'im takriv, hareim mishamish b'loshen ki, sharei ein ze reshus, sharei minchas ha'omer kos medaber shichova." He notes for us that the word "im" here does not mean if. Im atarotze, if you want to. Im atalorotze, if you don't want to. Im does not mean if. It can't mean if. It's one of the 248 positive commandments. You have to do this. And Rashi says it's a chova. So Rashi says the word im here means ki. When you do it, you shall do it this way, which is not the usual meaning of the word im. And Rashi points out, the Mechilta, I believe, points out that there are three exceptions to this rule. There are three places in the Torah where it says im, and im doesn't mean if you want to. Im means when you do it, you shall do it this way. So we're going to just focus for a few minutes on this im of the Omer. Why did the Rabbanu Shalom? I'm going to mention something now. It's parenthetical to what we're talking about, but it's very important. What I'm about to say now, I said to some of my grandsons in Cleveland asked me to Zoom last night and to learn some Chumash. So what I'm about to say to the Olam here is what I said to them last night about the Omer. But I said something to them, it's parenthetical to the Omer, but it's very important. We're looking at the word im. And there are two ways I can continue saying this shir. I can say, why does the pasuk say ve'im? If. The pasuk should say, you shall. Or I can say, why does the Torah say ve'im? If. The Torah should say you shall. In both cases, I have used words, pasuk or Torah, that does not use the word the Ribono Shel Olam. And that's really what the question is. If I want to really address the question, as the Ramchal would tell us, go to the root, go to the source. Why did Hashem tell Moshe to write in the Sefer Torah Ve'im if the Ribono Shel Olam meant to tell Moshe, you shall? Why did the Ribono Shel Olam use that word? Now we're talking about a whole different Zoom share here. We're not talking about Pasuk, we're not talking about Torah, we're talking about God. And this is so important when people are learning, we constantly have these words and we almost avoid using God. A person can learn a whole day and not say the word God. If he didn't daven, he wouldn't say God at all. A person that, whatever reason, didn't daven, and he learns the whole day, he may not say the word God. We have to, through our learning, connect to the Ribono Shel Olam. The question here is much deeper than, why did the Pasuk say Ve'im? Who is the Pasuk? What is Pasuk? What does it mean, Pasuk? Why did the Torah say? Why didn't the Torah say? What is Torah? We have to sometimes have to learn and interrupt ourselves and say, 1 second. Once, twice a day when I'm learning, say, why did God say it this way? Why did Ribono Shel Olam say it this way? And now I'm talking about God. I'm talking about connecting to God. I want to understand God. Why did God talk to me this way? God, why did God say Ve'im? Now we have a whole new connection to God because I'm learning about God. I'm not learning Pasuk. I'm not learning Torah. I'm learning about God. I'm connecting to Ribono Shel Olam. That's very important, especially for young people to understand. I gave them an example. I once said this in a shir. The Mir Yeshiva, unbelievable place of Torah, 2,000 K'nai Hurricane Yibu, maybe more people learning in the morning there. In multiple buildings, they can't fit into one building. They're all over Beis Yisrael area, Mea Shorim. In 2000, first Seder 4 hours. Let's forget about any smoking, any coffee breaks. Let's say they're learning for the whole 4 hours. 2,000 boys, K'nai Nahara, 4 hours, 8,000 hours. A boy say 8,000 hours in one morning at the Mir. 8,000 hours of learning. And let's say they're learning Shor Shenoga Chesapora. They're learning the Perek and Baba Kama. What is the halacha when someone's ox gores someone's cow? Shor Shenoga Chesapora. How much do you pay? When do you pay? What happens if there was a dead fetus found next to the cow? Who pays for the fetus? Who doesn't pay for the fetus? Do you pay for the fetus? So I said to them, when I was talking to my grandsons yesterday, you can do the same thing as if it was a Cadillac and a Chevy. And we heard this, Lahavdil in law school. We had a funny torts professor. He would say things like, imagine this. He would say, a brand new Porsche. Mamish, a brand new, he wouldn't say Mamish, a brand new Porsche. It just came out of the showroom. This is the owner's first drive. He's driving the Porsche. And some guy goes against the light. He drives against the red. And the guy is driving a beat up Chevy. And he smashes the brand new Porsche. The first drive of the brand new Porsche, it got beat up and damaged through a beat up Chevy. And then we have all kinds of questions. The driver who went through the light was drunk, but the person who was driving the Porsche was speeding. So who pays who? What's the story here? You have a Porsche driver who's speeding, and you have a Chevy driver who's drunk. Okay. And believe me, during this discussion in law school, whether the drunk driver or the speeding driver, who's more guilty, we never talked about God. God didn't come up in the room, in the torts room. It just never came up. Who does God think should pay? It wasn't a question that came up. Now, Chas v'Shalom, you can go out of the law classroom and go into a Beis Medrash. And instead of Chevy, Porsche, you can talk about the cow, the ox gored the cow. And you can do this for hours at end. And how much do you pay? And you can go through the whole thing. Who pays, how much, it depends what. And keep on going through this. In Chas v'Shalom, you can turn that discussion. It sounds like a law classroom. Who pays, how much, when, what does the pasuk say, what does the pasuk mean? And you never once say God the whole day. But what you're really focusing on is, if someone's ox gored someone's cow, what does God want you to do here? because I don't know how much you have to pay. I only know how much you have to pay because I have to go back to Pashas Mishpatim. And in Pashas Mishpatim, there are psukim about an ox that gored a cow. And those psukim tell me how much you have to pay. So you can keep on talking about pasuk and pasuk and pasuk, or you can say at least once or twice during your 4 hours. You can say, if that's the case, that's the case. What does God want the person to pay? Wow, I just turned the whole base medrash into a shir about the Ribono Shel Olam, not a shir about some term of law. So part of learning, an important part of learning, is to make sure that while we're learning, we're connecting to Ribono Shel Olam. And I'm not saying this from having a Hasidic background. Reb Chaim Volozhin in Nefesh HaChaim says, a person that in the middle of his learning, he doesn't feel connected to the Ribono Shel Olam, it's okay for him to stop learning and to think for a little while about connecting to the Ribono Shel Olam. That's why you're learning. Okay, let's go back to what we're up to. We're up to this word ve'im. Why did God tell Moshe Rabbeinu to write the word ve'im? If you bring the Omer. If you bring the Omer, you don't have a choice. If you eat matzah, if you build a sukkah, you build it and you eat it. The Torah should say you have to bring the carbon Omer. What's this ve'im? Why did God use the word ve'im? What message is God giving me? Let's forget the word. What do I learn from this pasuk? Let's delete that. What do I learn from God? God's a Rebbe here. What does the Rebbe teach me here by using? And the Rebbe's teaching me here an amazing lesson. It's a lesson all about Avodas Hashem. I'll give you an example. This example I gave my grandsons last night. My first day in Chaim Berlin, 9th grade, there were 2 9th grades. So assume there were 60 9th graders, and we're all there on the first day. This is our first day in Chaim Berlin. About a half an hour before lunch, all 60 of us from the 2 9th grades come together in an auditorium, and Rav Siegel, Zechron Tzadik Levracha, the principal of the high school, comes in, and he's going to explain to us the rules of Chaim Berlin High School. You have to be here at this time. This is minyan. This is what we do Monday. This is what we do, etc. He's giving us all the rules. This is lunchtime. This is recess time. This is what happens if you do this. This is what happens if you don't do this. All the rules. And then he says the following. On Thursday, you will end your English classes. I'm not sure the exact hours, but this is what he said. On Thursday, you will end your English classes at 6. From 6 to 6:30, supper will be served in the dining room. From 6:30 to 7:15, you will have a break. The gym will be open. You'll be able to go play ball. At 7:15, we're going to have Mishmar, where you'll learn with your Chavrus in the Beis Medrash till 8:30. At 8:30, this is going to be Ma'ariv. And I want everybody to understand that this Mishmar program on Thursday night is a voluntary program. If you want to come, you can come. But if you don't want to come, then it's a mandatory program. But it's up to you. If you like the idea, please come. It's a voluntary program. If you don't like the idea, you don't want to come, it's a mandatory program. So you're going to come either way. The question is, are you going to come because you want to, or are you going to come because I tell you you have to come? And here the Torah is telling us, V'im. We left Mitzrayim on the 15th day of Nisan. It's the next day, the 16th day of Nisan. The 16th day of Nisan, the Ribono Shel Olam says, a special flour, barley flour offering needs to be brought in the Beis HaMikdash. V'im, and if. The word if, Rashi tells us, does not mean if you want to, it means you shall. In other words, what's happening here through this word ve'im is that if is being converted to shall. A voluntary program is being converted into a mandatory program. If you want to, you can bring the Omer. If you don't want to, it's mandatory. If here means you shall. It's a chova. And what the Ribono Shel Olam is teaching us here is that during the days of Sfira, this is the Omer, and Sfiras Omer is the counting of that Omer. We're counting of that Omer, Sfiras HaOmer. It is so much connected to the Omer that, as I mentioned at the beginning of the Chumash here, that there are those opinions in halacha that say that today counting the Omer is a rabbinic mitzvah. It's not a biblical mitzvah because the Omer is so connected, the counting is so connected to the barley flour offering that if there's no Beis Hamikdash, there's no barley flour offering, you don't have to count the Omer, except we do it for rabbinic reasons. So intimately connected is the counting to the bringing of the flour offering, according to the Shita. So when we count Sfiras Omer, we're counting to the Omer. But what's the Omer? The Omer is a process of counting 49 days until we get to the 50th day. It's a process of understanding the program that we're going to get to on day 50 is going to be 600. When we get to the Shavuos, Matan Torah, there's 613 mitzvahs, 613 instructions, 248 things you should do, 365 things you should not do. We're going to get to that. That's instructions. We'll get to that on Shavuos. But right now, you need to change your mental attitude for 49 days. You need to count to the Omer. You need to stop thinking about if, because even if the Rebbeinu Shalom says if, it means you shall. The if only means if you are big enough to really want to do this, you will do it. But either way, you're going to do this. In other words, this is a concept of Eved Hashem. The Torah says that God took us out of Mitzrayim. The Torah says, the Rebbeinu Shalom says, Ki li b'nei Yisrael avodim. The Jewish people are now my servants. I took you out of Mitzrayim where you were servants and suffered under Paro and the Mitzrayim. I took you out of there and I transformed you into privileged servants. Am Segula, you are still servants, but you're not the oppressed servant of Mitzrayim. You're now the privileged. Go Kadosh. I've transformed your whole system of service. But you have to first get this concept in your mind that I'm here to serve the Rebbeinu Shalom. I am an Eved Hashem. And that transformation occurs throughout the Sfiras Omer. And now that I'm an Eved Hashem, what do you want me to do to serve you? We'll get to that on Shavuos. There'll be 613 mitzvahs we'll learn on Shavuos. But first you have to understand that you're here. Your very purpose in the world is to serve Hashem, or the Ramchal says your very purpose here, the underlying purpose, is to bring about the Gilui HaYichud, which is the service of Hashem, and that has to do with Torah mitzvahs as well. But the ultimate, why are you here on planet Earth? Why did God put you on planet Earth? Being Eved Hashem, to serve the Rebbeinu Shalom. And that's a whole mental attitude. That has nothing to do with how to serve Hashem. We'll get to that on Shavuos, 613 instructions. But first you need to build the mental attitude that I'm counting 49 days to get the 50th day. During these 49 days, I need to change my attitude. I need to change the way I think. The way I think is everything, my whole life is dedicated to the Rebbeinu Shalom. I'm an Eved Hashem. And even if the Torah says Ve'im, it's a chova, because you're an Eved Hashem. It's a very bad marshal. But sometimes we say to our children, would you like to take out the garbage? Would you like to take out the garbage? So this is psychologists say, you shouldn't say to your children, Tatala, take the garbage out now. Because that's automatically today in the environment we raise children and grandchildren, that's a recipe for the child to say, I'll get to it later. Children don't want to hear commandments. I'm not your servant. What do you mean, take out the garbage? Some parents say, Tatala, can you please take out the garbage? Or you say, would you take out the garbage for me? We try to avoid commandments because we want it to come from them. We say, would you like to take out the garbage? Say, sure, I'll take out the garbage. I want to take out the garbage. The point is that we need to create in our own minds and create an attitude where our lives are dedicated to Rebbeinu Shalom. And even if the way the Rebbeinu Shalom says Ve'im, we understand it means a chova. This is something we have to do because we're dedicated. If the Rebbeinu Shalom says, if you will do it, of course I'm going to do it. My life's dedicated to you. And we count 49 days. Every time we count Sfira, it's the Sfiras HaOmer. And the Omer was written with the word of Im. And the Im is a Chova, because we're Evdei Hashem. This rule, will end with this. This rule carries over, it has immense significance. We've read many times and shared the Rambam in Perek Beis, believe in Perek Beis of Hilchas Deos. The Rambam says that a person can go to sleep, and when he wakes up in the morning, he got more Olam Haba. A person can eat, and after he's finished eating, he gets more Olam Haba. You don't have to necessarily be in the Beis Medrash davening or learning to get Olam Haba. Avada, that's very important things to do. But we have a rule, B'chol Drachecha Da'eyu. We have a rule called Masech Yu L'Shem Shemayim. These are fundamental rules of Judaism. If you go to sleep at night, the Rambam says, and your goal is so that when you wake up in the morning, you're refreshed, and you'll have more koiches to daven better. You'll have more koiches to learn better. So when you slept, you got Olam Haba for sleeping. What did I do? You didn't do anything. But you went through the sleep process in order to serve Hashem better the next day. That's also a service of Hashem, to sleep well. You get Olam Haba because you're doing it for Hashem. You're eating a meal. So now you need to know what a meal is and how much you indulge in a meal. But you're eating a meal, and you want to eat the meal so that you have more koiches. More koiches it could be to go to work, so you can support your family, which you're mechuyev to do. Or you're eating so you can learn better. You're eating so you can go and do a chesed for someone. You're hungry, you're tired, but you want to do a big chesed for someone, so you take a nap before you do the chesed. You eat something before you do the chesed. All that is part of the chesed. So the Rambam says a person can be eating, getting Olam Haba for the eating. A person can be sleeping, getting Olam Haba for the sleeping. The point is that a person's life becomes dedicated to serving the Rebbe Shalom. He's never Hashem. So everything he does during his 24-hour day, including sleeping during that 24-hour day, or eating during the 24-hour day, or taking a walk. A person can't burn himself out either. God wants healthy people, physically healthy, emotionally healthy, mentally healthy. You need to take a walk. You need to take a break. Go get some fresh air. If you're going to get the fresh air because you want to refresh yourself and be a better person, learn better, etc., be able to work better, whatever it is, all these things become service to Hashem. So we have an opportunity through this Omer counting of 49 days. We count the Omer every night. It's an amazing thing. You make 49 brachas. The Sfarim talk about this. Do you have another mitzvah where you make 49 brachas on it? Why do you make 49 brachas? You should make a bracha the first night, and every night you count. You make 49 brachas on the same mitzvah. We're getting this idea. Every night we're making this bracha with the Rebbeinu Hashem U'Malchus. It's not simple to make a bracha. You're uttering God's name. You're going to utter God's name 49 times. And what's the lesson God's telling you to learn from uttering his name, making a bracha 49 times? The Rebbe Shalom is telling you, we'll get to the instructions on Shavuos. I'll give you 613 instructions. But for right now, for 49 days, I need you to change your attitude and change the way you think. Ki li b'nei Yisrael avodim. I brought you out of Mitzrayim to be my servants, not slaves, to serve me. It's a privilege to serve the Rebbeinu Shalom. Mamleches Kainim Goy Kodesh, which we're going to hear about when we get closer to Shavuos. It's a privileged job, the job that we have. And in order to do the job, God gave us a tremendous opportunity. 24/7, you can get Olam Haba. Not that that's a tachlis of what we do, but it's an opportunity. 24/7, a person can be an Oved Hashem. And for that reason, the Torah says in Parshat Vayikra, V'im, and if you will bring the Omer, you have to bring the Omer. But it's said in a way that transforms what you want to do into you shall do. And that's the transformation of this free-minded person who thinks he can do whatever he wants, when he wants, into the new attitude of you shall do, even if it's said b'lashon because a person is an Eved Hashem. A tremendous lesson from Sfiras HaOmer for 49 days to prepare us for Shavuos and 613 instructions. I want to thank Shmuel Elawad, my son-in-law, Yaakov, Isaac Saul, and maybe others who I don't know that are involved in getting the Zoom together, making it work every day. Tremendous chesed. They put in quite a bit of time to making this work, to distribute the handout. Thank you for them. Those Yidden who need refuah should get a refuah. Those good to mention the whole world, they're also created by God. They should have refuah. Those who need nechama should get the nechama. Those who need Yeshua should have Yeshuas. And everybody take care of yourselves. As I said yesterday, Rebbeinu Shalom loves healthy Jews. It's a mitzvah rise to keep yourself healthy. The government's saying all different kinds of things. The malls are open, doesn't mean you need to run to a mall today. The hotels are open, doesn't mean you need to run to a hotel. I don't know what it even means to run to a hotel. What do you do? Pay 900 shekel a night to wear a mask all around the grounds? I'm not sure what it means. How you eat? What are you going to do? Eat with your mask on and off? I don't know what you pay 900 shekel a night for. I'm not sure what this is all about. But if the government says that you can do something, it doesn't mean go do it. They have their reasons for doing it. But you need, most importantly, take care of yourself. The Shalom loves, he wants healthy Jews. He wants healthy Jews. The Ger Rebbe, as an example, the Ger Rebbe, maybe the largest Hasidus in Eretz Yisrael, he announced, it was on the news, he announced after the government opened up certain things. For example, Netanyahu said in a speech, he gave us permission, he said, you can visit your grandchildren now, but don't hug them or kiss them. So this is sort of a new kind of civilization we live in, where the government tells us who we can kiss and who we can't kiss, when we can kiss them, when we can't kiss them, but it's all for the good. It just means to protect us. I'm not saying that as a joke. He means to protect us. But he gave us permission. He said, go, you can visit your grandchildren, don't hug them or kiss them. The Ger Rebbe said, for my Hasidim, whatever the rules were, they remain in effect. The 100 meters, the no visiting, everything, the stores, all the rules that were before these new leniencies remain in effect for at least 2 more weeks, and I'll get back to you after the 2 weeks to see what's going on. But he was Mahmid. He says, this is Sakonis Nefashis. I'm not ready to let my Hasidim walk around, do whatever they want, when they want. They need to go to the store. They need to do this, they need to do that. You need food, like the old rules. You get food. You need medicine, get your medicine. But we're not opening up, at least for the Gerach Hasidim, we're not opening everything up to do what you want in these times where there's a sakana. So Rosh Hashanah wants us to be healthy and safe, and everybody take care of yourselves. Think about what you're doing, whether it makes sense to do it, whether you have to do it. The important thing is to stay healthy and well, because if you're healthy and well, you can be Shomer Torah mitzvahs. If God forbid you're sick, you can't be Shomer Torah mitzvahs. So everybody have a wonderful day, a gesundte day, a wonderful Shabbos Kodesh this week, Parsha, all the Yonim Tovim, all the things about Shir Sa'ima we talked about, and we can recalibrate ourselves during these days to be Oivdei Hashem, to prepare for Shavuos by thinking about my life is dedicated to Hashem, my whole 24/7 is dedicated to Hashem, and that's a wonderful thing to think about. This is not something you do. It's something you think about every day during the 49 days of Sir Omer. It could be before you count the Omer, after you count the Omer, morning, whenever. Just give it a couple of minutes. Think about how you can recalibrate your life to be an Eved Hashem leading up to Shavuos and Matan Torah. Everybody have a wonderful day. Zay Gesund.